Is it recording? I can't tell. Okay. So, you know how sometimes people accidentally run into celebrities in cities like this? Well, it finally happened to me tonight. Let's see. First off, I went to Portobello Road Market today. It was alright. I think I like Camden Market better. But then I went to the Hunterian Museum, which is part of the Royal College of Surgeons of England, and they had tons of body parts in preservatives and jars and everything like that, brains and tumors and bones and stuff. So that was cool. And then, basically the whole reason I went out today, I heard that last week after the matinee show, Tom Hiddleston and the rest of the Coriolanus cast went out and signed, even though they don't normally do signings after matinee. And I figured, it's the last Saturday, so I would go and give it a try. So I went to the theater and sat around for 30 minutes, and then the matinee people, backtrack. It was just before the matinee people let out. And this car pulls up, and it's one of those green tomato rental cars, and I was like, well, is that, one of the cast cars? Like, are they going out to dinner real quick in between shows or what? I was like, nah, cast wouldn't rent a green tomato car. And then this girl gets out. She's like all dressed in black, has long wavy black hair, and she has a shopping bag, and she tells the cab driver, or the car driver, have a good night. And I was like, well, that's a very American thing to say. Like, I was just like so preoccupied with that. And I was like, look, I was looking at the girl, and it didn't click until she was directly in front of me and like I saw her profile. But it was Lara Pulver, who plays Irene Adler off of BBC Sherlock. And I was like, what? And I was just kind of looking like, and she walked by me into the theater, and because I was right next to the door, and I was like, that's Lara Pulver. Because, Mycroft, played by Mark Gatiss, is actually in the play. So I guess, all the cast are coming to support him. And so I was like looking in the door, and she was at the box office for like almost 10 minutes. And I was like, oh man, I hope she comes back out. I was like, that's totally her. And she had looked right at me too, and I don't know why it didn't click. But anyway, so she never came back out, and I was like really disappointed. And I was about to go in and like, catch her before she went anywhere. But then all the matinee people started letting out. And so there was, massive crowds coming, and all the fangirls, of course, stop at the front door. So then everything's crowded and nobody can get out of the theater. Well, the two girls in front of me, I was third in the queue, they're looking in the windows and they're like, oh my gosh, that's Andrew Scott. And I was like, wait, are you serious? Like, what is the Sherlock cast doing? Like, grouping up together tonight. And so Andrew Scott came to the front door, and he signed and took a couple pictures, and I was like this close from Andrew Scott, and I was like, in case you don't know, he plays Moriarty off of Sherlock, and I was like, Andrew, will you take a picture with me? And he looked at me. He looked at me, and he was like, yeah, sure. And I was trying to push through the crowd to get to him, and then it was just so crowded, and he's like, I'll be back. And so he went inside, and then a minute later he came back out again, and I was gonna get my picture, but then this like group of Chinese chicks, like, they just like rush him, and he takes pictures with them and stuff, and this one girl's like, China, you're very popular in China. And I was like, oh my gosh, you just like took my photo opportunity. Like literally, there were so many fangirls, like he couldn't get out, and so he went back in and disappeared. Probably went out the back door. But I was so angry, like, hello, like we had a queue going here, like y'all need to back off, because like literally nobody could get out of the theater. So anyway, the matinee people left and dispersed, and the security guard came and said, nobody's coming out this way. I'm not bringing Tom out. They don't sign in between shows. And so half the crowd left. And there were quite a few of us still standing around, and I was hoping for Andrew to come back. Like, either he was hanging out with Lara, or something, or he was just waiting for the crowd to die down. So I was like, man, I gotta get Andrew. But he never came out. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it till the show starts. And once the show starts, I know that, you know, nobody's coming out. So I waited around, and at about, I don't know, about 6:30, I guess, I met this other lady who was actually going into the show, and she just started talking to me about, you know, the show and the actors and things like that. And I was telling her that Lara had already gone in and was going to be in the 7:30 audience. And then I told her about Andrew, and just as I was telling her about Andrew, like, Lara comes by me again, carrying her little black shopping bag. Like, I was like, what? I was like, how did I never saw her leave. Like, she must have gone out the back door. And, like, she just came right in front of me again. And I was just staring. I was like, wait, like, come back. And I was like, man, I can't believe I missed her again. But she ended up coming out the second time. So as she was coming out, I was like, I'm gonna go for it. I said, Miss Pulver, and she looks over, and I was like, hi, can I get a photo? And she was like, yeah, sure. And so she, like, stopped, and she's like, have you seen the play yet? Or she said, no, hold up. She said, are you gonna go see the play tonight? And I was like, no, I've already seen it. And she's like, don't spoil it for me. And I said, well, it's great. And so she stepped down and came over closer, and I went to take the photo, and she's like, oh, we can do selfies from here? And I was like, yeah, or whatever. And she said something, and you know how you have those random gaps in your memory? Like, I don't even know where this, like, 2 or 3 seconds went, but she said something that prompted me to reply with, yeah, I study here. Like, I don't know if she was asking about my accent or what. Like, I just don't even know what she said. And but I mean, I guess it wasn't too awkward of a response, because she was like, oh, where do you study? And I was like, I said Kingston, in Greater London. She's like, oh, right, like down in Surrey. And I was like, yes. I was like, she's actually, like, taking a genuine interest, like, in a fan. Like, how sweet is she? And then I pulled out my camera. I was like, you know, I said, let me just check this picture real quick to make sure it's good. And I showed her, and I said, you like this one? And she's like, yeah. And she, like, came in real close and was looking. And so then she left. She came back with a coffee like 5 minutes later. But anyway, so yes, that is the story of how I met Lara Pulver. And I don't think I can ever hate Irene Adler as much as I used to after meeting her. She's just so sweet. Like, I just can't believe I met Lara Pulver. And also Andrew Scott, like, looked at me and talked to me. So yeah, it was a good night.